set and everything with everyone, and everything is really cool.
Janet, would you let us know when your new book is coming out, please?
I most definitely will. It'll be in 2023. I'm assuming toward the beginning of the year. Oh, and I can talk about it. Testament is actually in 4 parts. The first part, which is the hugest part, is all this post-Roe v. Wade stuff. The second part is, I'm just saying life and death, but it's about a lot of pieces about people who have died, who committed suicide or some other, and poets dying and that kind of thing. The last 2 parts are reflections of the first book in the Old Testament and the last book in the New Testament. And it's not as long, but it's just another part that is in it, and it's fascinating to do that as well. But anyway, so sometime in 2023, I'm guessing toward the beginning of the year, and that's all I know about that. But this is the tentative cover, which it's hard to show off, but this is Testament. Hello. And I think that was when I was in New Orleans dressed as Scully we were Mulder and Scully for Halloween because it was a 25-year anniversary or something. And I'm like, I'm going to stand in this thing and pose, and I didn't know what for, but anywho, that seemed like a cool cover for it. And I'm going to read 2 that are in that book because I don't have any scheduled for past books. This first one is called Unconstitutionality. Understanding how laws are supposed to be made in the United States. Understanding that although we like to define more rights to people, we must also understand that our own government should never wield that much power. So, although we women have fought for things that seem so basic to us, like the right to vote or equal pay, I say this with a heavy heart that the U.S. government may not have had the right to say that all women had the right to an abortion. I say that because it's not the government's place. Powers not stated in the Constitution, quote, are reserved for the states respectively or the people. So saith the 10th Amendment. So actually, Roe v. Wade may have overstepped our country's boundaries. I just didn't realize Bible Belt and misogynistic backwards parts of this nation would devise laws designed to hurt all women in case Roe v. Wade was overturned, so they could all pounce, just in case. This bothers me. It rattles me to my core that after we've worked so hard and are smarter than over half of your lot, you make a religious claim that we can't even have control over our own reproductive rights. I'm too emotional about this. I'm sorry. So I try to ground myself in reality. For science, based on reason and rationality, has often been strangled by religion. But logic, science, has always prevailed throughout history. The wait may seem too long for women fighting after the laws changing after their overturning of Roe v. Wade. But those laws, after they made their own laws to degrade all women, so it comforts me to see that after the most restrictive laws came to the Lone Star State, over half of Texans now believe in abortion rights. If women thought courts were against us, smile after a Michigan judge finds criminalizing most abortions in the state's 1931 law, 2 years older than the overturning of prohibition, is constitutional. These corrections are hope that women's biology and reason will prevail. Long lines, Sharpies. And we've talked about stuff from World War II, which was, mentioned a few times and things, but this last one actually does. And it is called Using the Nazi Approach to Women's Rights. During the latter years of World War II, the only people who were allowed with Adolf Hitler during meals were young women, whom were all instructed to keep the conversation light so they wouldn't contradict his megalomaniacal views. During those same years, Adolf Hitler became so concerned that enemies, and even people in his own party, would try to kill him by poison in his food, So he kept a ration of 11 women to taste his food first, in case it was poisoned. Now, keep in mind these women had to be all good Aryan stock, even though these women were to him expendable enough to die, in case someone was trying to actually poison him with tainted vegetarian food. All these women fretted daily, wondering if they were eating their last meal. When I explained this to someone, they wondered why Hitler didn't get Jews to taste potentially deadly food instead, if they were meant to all die anyway. But poison or not, I'm sure there was no way Adolf Hitler would ever let a Jew eat food that was fit for the Fuhrer. For the Third Reich had no compunction with killing Jews, gypsies, political dissidents, but they would bend over backwards to keep every Aryan baby alive, even born out of wedlock, thanks to the Lebensborn program to increase their German stock. Keep in mind that the Nazi-era law that came into effect in 1933 as paragraph 219A of Germany's criminal code prohibited doctors from providing information about abortions as advertising abortion services in their attempt to, in effect, discourage women from obtaining abortions. German conservatives from the past 4 governments of Angela Merkel's Christian right kept this law alive. Germany finally scrapped the law on the same day Roe v. Wade was overturned in the USA, proclaiming a broad counterpoint to the hazardous now U.S. treatment of women's rights. And now I hear, months after this overturning, that conservative political candidates are now trying to make themselves sound more moderate in the months preceding elections. Republican candidates are even scrubbing their websites of any past anti-abortion rhetoric, hoping that those who disagree with them will not remember their once assaultive views on women, on life that's actually living. A UN committee even slammed the U.S. abortion rights decision, which disproportionately affects racial and ethnic minorities from safety in women's reproductive rights issues. So, really, jump from the UN to the Geneva Convention's war crimes after uncovering the extent of the Third Reich's heinous acts throughout World War II. The Nazis' hatred for swaths of humanity seems akin to their hatred of women, in the false delusion of claiming to care for clumps of cells that aren't even life instead.
Janet, I know there are people in the country, and I don't want to slander them, but who truly believe that for the moment of conception there's a human being. But I cannot believe that all of the people who are promoting anti-abortion laws have that belief. I think they're going along with the crowd and they're doing whatever, and I just can't believe it.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was my rant, and thank you for listening to my rant. I know I'm hosting this thing, but I just thank you for giving me the option to rant, and yay. And I will tell you about the book if and when, well, I won't say if, but when, because they asked me, like, wait, we want to do a book, and I'm like, I was kind of hoping you might, but since there was one that you published in March, it probably would be done in 20, he's like, yes, 2023, so this book will be going to them, and probably in the beginning of 2023 is my guess for that. But now that I've told you a little bit more about the different sections of the books, that there's a bunch of different stuff on it, because a poet friend of mine had an assisted suicide recently, and I wrote thanks for that. And by the way, I appreciate John moving the camera so that we can see the poet on the shirt as well. That's double plus awesome. I believe I looked on my date book to say that the next Poetic license is, as always, the first Sunday of the month, and that would be November 6th. So if you don't have the Facebook links to be able to get it, remember that's always on the first Wednesday of the month, or first Sunday of the month, and that's on the 6th. And thank you all so very much for being a part of Poetic License. You are all living angels, every one of you, and even the people that left early, sniff, but thank you all so very much. And
it's always the same link. So
if you forget,
if you can't find it,
find it from a past.
you should be saving this link in your date book or whatever.
Definitely. Yes. So, so thank you. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for reading. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you. You have all earned your poetic license this month. Thank you all so very much. Each and every one of you. I want to thank all of you so very much. Thank you. Yay.